what we see is that, especially in the custodial Lightning space of wallets, for example, or exchanges, there we clearly see that Lightning achieved product market fit. So here users already benefit from like instant payments, also from minimal fees, because custodians manage the complexities of channels and liquidity, right? So that's also why we see, for example, major platforms like Coinbase, Cash App, Kraken, Binance, also like they already provide Lightning functionalities to more than 100 millions of users, right? So I think that this is something that's here to stay.
Welcome back to another episode of Bitfinex Talks. I'm your host, Ricardo Martinez. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Moritz Kaminsky, who is the co-founder of the Alby Lightning and Nostr wallet. Moritz, how are you? Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, hi, Ricardo. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
For those that don't know what Alby is, I guess give them a rundown on what exactly Alby is and all the services that you can enjoy if you use Alby.
Yeah, so we are basically a team that is on a mission to make Bitcoin the internet's native currency, because so far you can only use the internet to like freely transmit information across like any place globally, which is awesome. But there is no way also to transmit value with this content across the internet. And we believe Bitcoin is the currency to do that. And that's why we started Alby, to help people interact with Bitcoin. And the Lightning Network is, in our point of view, like one of the superior payment protocols to actually achieve that. So whenever you interact with the Lightning Network, when you want to send or receive Bitcoin in apps, for example, then Alby basically has a product or service for you. So could be you as a consumer, as a creator, or a developer. Whenever you want to touch the Lightning Network, when you ever want to send and receive Bitcoin payments, then we have something for you. That's a browser extension. That's a self-custodial Lightning wallet. That's a mobile native app, and that's, for example, for developers, very useful APIs to really interact on an app level and not with an actual implementation level. So it's quite we really reduce the complexity here a lot for people to use Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'd have to say that Alby is probably one of the most user-friendly wallets that I've used. When I first started using Alby, it was just pretty much like a browser plugin that was like a Lightning wallet, and that's it. And it's since evolved. You guys are offering a bunch more services now. Like you can use it to manage your Nostr profiles. You can use it for podcasting 2.0. Like it's become Alby Hub. Like what's Alby Hub, I guess?
So yeah, we actually started with the browser extension because there was a bridge missing between all these existing Lightning wallets back then and these Bitcoin web apps. So you could really like pay and receive with just one click. That was not possible. You always had to scan QR codes, and that's totally not necessary in our point of view if we already also use a digital payment system like the Lightning Network with Bitcoin, right? So that's why we built the browser extension. But we also realized that people need to have simple and easy to use Lightning wallets, and that's why we started with an Alby account, which now developed into Alby Hub. And yeah, Alby Hub is your self-custodial Lightning wallet now, with a super easy to use Lightning node integrated. And the really cool thing is that it's accessible from literally anywhere, and you can integrate it in dozens of apps. So the idea is really like it's your hub for when it comes to Bitcoin payments. You do not need to distribute your funds across different apps, maybe even forget about them. You have them in your hub and connect that hub or your node basically to other apps to send and receive natively in these apps.
I noticed that Alby is like really focused on Nostr these days. And Nostr, for those who don't know, is a decentralized social media protocol that has Lightning payments integrated into it. Why has Alby decided to focus so much on Nostr? Do you guys see it as like the future of social media?
It definitely has huge potential when it comes to this social media use case. But in my point of view, there's also a lot of other use cases actually that Nostr can really disrupt, and we can talk about that. But yeah, it started also again with the idea of making payments more usable in apps, right? And we had the browser extension back then already, and people came up with the idea of why can I not tip people in a Nostr app, for example? And yes, so that's why you also need something like a browser extension. And then the next step was, okay, we have a browser extension that runs fully on the on your own desktop, laptop. So it's a client-side only application. So it is basically ideal also to store your Nostr keys. And back then there were and maybe still issues with storing your Nostr key in web apps, which you should not do, and instead use something like a browser extension. So that was back then Alby was one of the first browser extension that offered easy key management for Nostr apps. And you could, for example, also use or manage multiple Nostr keys today in your Alby extension, and at the same time also pay. So we really combine these two,
Mhm.
and Nostr is therefore, or Alby is therefore a tool that is widely recommended within the Nostr community.
Do you feel like that the key management for Nostr accounts is going to be like too much of a learning curve for normal people to deal with?
Mm. So I think for the community that Nostr currently addresses, it's working very well, I think, because usually these are people who are familiar with key management, right? There are often Bitcoiners, for example, so
Mhm.
they know how to deal with keys um, usually. But um, you already see that some mobile apps have a very easy way for you to handle keys as well. And I think this is also probably the route for users that are not familiar with this type of technology, with signing and such, to start using Nostr. So I don't think it actually prevents users from starting right now. However, later on there might be some tricky ways. For example, when you lose your keys, I think there we should think about better solutions.
Okay, cool. And then another thing that Alby has focused on is Adam Curry's podcasting 2.0 movement and support for the podcasting 2.0 features. Uh, why do you think that podcasting 2.0 is so important?
Because I personally think it fits perfectly. So Bitcoin as an open payment system fits perfectly to podcasting, because podcasting itself is based on RSS, which is a open system of content distribution, right? So you can subscribe to a RSS source basically as an app, and then you get updates, or you can request updates basically, and play them to your users. So it's perfectly and fits perfectly together, because what you see in the podcasting space, because of this open content distribution system, that you have a very diverse ecosystem of podcast apps. And what you could do now with an open payment system on top is that you only, or every app only needs to agree on the payment protocol itself. They do not need to integrate a certain payment provider like PayPal, for example, which would be a big hurdle for adoption, right? So they can theoretically integrate any Lightning API, any Lightning wallet. Just they only need to communicate over the Lightning network, and that's why I think that's why there's a great fit, and a part of that, there's also real traction in this space. So there are there are creators like podcasters who constantly receive payments from users, and it's not just like one payment, it's hundreds of thousand payments. And there are also a few podcasters who also get some like real substantial income from people sending them Bitcoin. So there is also some real economic activity there, and that's why it's for us extremely important to provide also a good service to the senders, but also to the podcasters, to the receivers.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, there's a lot of people that I would say aren't even really Bitcoiners, but are using Bitcoin because of podcasting 2.0. Another question that I have is we've seen a lot of people be very critical of the Lightning Network. And I think like when Lightning Network launched, people had like a certain vision in their mind on how it was going to roll out, and it has rolled out in a different way. And some people have been very critical about Lightning. What would you say to people that are critical about the Lightning Network?
But what we see is that, especially in the custodial Lightning space of wallets, for example, or exchanges, there we clearly see that Lightning achieved product market fit. So here users already benefit from like instant payments, also from minimal fees, because custodians manage the complexities of channels and liquidity, right? So that's also why we see, for example, major platforms like Coinbase, Cash App, Kraken, Binance, also like they already provide Lightning functionalities to more than 100 millions of users, right? So I think that this is something that's here to stay. Where we certainly need to become better is, as a whole community, is to focus more on also bringing these benefits into into the non-custodial user experience. So to make this on par with the custodial UX. And I think Alby Hub, for example, is one answer to that on a wallet level, right? But also on a implementation level, we need to make sure that that the accessibility of the Lightning Network is quick, is cheap, right? So that's also affordable and manageable for the normal consumer, basically.
Are there any other Bitcoin L2s that Alby is looking at to maybe integrate? I know there's things like Mercury Layer, and then lately there's been talk of a lot of like Ethereum style smart contracting, side chains, or like layer twos, like build on Bitcoin. Are you guys looking at any of these other L2s for Bitcoin?
Yeah, definitely. But I think like first and foremost, we are looking at innovations that are closer to the Lightning Network, things like channel factories and such. But also beyond that, we are experimenting with eCash. For example, there are some, let's say, experimental implementation. So available in existing Alby products. So you could see, if you want, you could connect a eCash or Cashew Mint to the Alby Hub, for example, as a funding source.
Okay.
And this is a way for us to learn a little bit more and about these technologies and understand their potential. So it's definitely likely that we will at some point also integrate one of these additional layers, as long as really that supports us in our mission to bring to make Bitcoin like the native currency of the internet.
Awesome. And then I guess like for those who've never used Alby, like it's one of the more user-friendly Lightning experiences. What advantages does Alby provide for like a user that wants to get started with Lightning Network?
So Alby Hub itself is, first of all, it's a self-custodial wallet. It's an open source wallet. So you will have your own keys. So ownership is basically with you. You interact directly with the Lightning Network and not through any other like custodial service provider. But still, it's extremely easy to use. So you could, for example, just open a channel without actually realizing that you open a channel with just 2 clicks. And then you can already, then you are basically ready to receive payments. So that's, but you can also, if you are more familiar with the Lightning Network, have even more control of saying, okay, you want to set channel fees, you want to open channels to custom peers. So this is also how we make sure that we cover a broad spectrum of user preferences, right? For the ones that want to have it done quickly, without digging too deep into the Lightning network, but also for the ones who know a lot and want to optimize some fees, for example, then we also cover them, which is quite nice. But I think ultimately the greatest benefit and advantage of Alby Hub is the capability of connecting your own node now to a lot of apps out there. So you can connect it to, obviously, to the browser extension. You can also connect it to Alby Go, which is our brand new and native mobile app. But you can also, for example, bring it to Primal, to Damos, for example, and you do not need to distribute your funds anymore, but you can all keep them on your node, SAP directly out of your node, or receive directly in your own wallet, and not giving away custody to any other third-party apps, for example. So I think these are really cool advantages that are not available in any other wallet there.
How many apps is Alby like integrated with now? Like on the website, there's quite a few.
There's definitely a few. So I think we are maintaining a GitHub repository, which is called Awesome Nostr Wallet Connect, or Awesome-NWC, where you can see a lot of these apps that integrate Alby Hub, for example, or just on getalby.com/discover, for example, you find a bunch of apps. So, and I think these are more than 20 already.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. It was actually kind of surprising to me. So as Lightning and Nostr are both like rapidly changing technologies, how does Alby plan to, I guess, like keep up with the rapidly changing landscape in both fields?
So yeah, as I mentioned, I think on the implementation layer, there are really cool innovations coming up. So we heard, for example, that Bolt 12 is now official part of the Bolt spec, which is great. This is something that we are looking at, and also plan to integrate, same as splicing, for example. And these will have significant impact on the user experience. For example, in terms of cost, it will be easier for them to open a closed channel, cheaper to do channel management. It will be more private. So these are like big steps for the UX. Yeah, and then there are also things like Arc, Cashew that we are looking at, and might also at some point integrate. But also on an app level, I think we could add a lot more that makes the UX even better, such as, yeah, we recently now published the Alby Go. This is a native mobile app now, where you can also bring basically your own node in your pocket and spend on the go when you pay for a coffee somewhere. And this is now all nicely integrated in a suite of products around your hub with the browser extension. Yeah, I think this is something like trying to be like leveling the cost and increasing the speeding up the onboarding process for new users, but at the same time also be everywhere where a user wants to pay. I think that will ultimately also improve the adoption of Bitcoin, because people have different preferences. They will they're not required to learn so much anymore, so it will be easier for them. And at the same time, what I would also like to see more is that more apps support accept Bitcoin payments, because every new app will give another user another use case or another reason to use Bitcoin. So that's why also we are pushing out new APIs that makes it easier for developers to integrate Bitcoin payments as another way also to accommodate for the future development.
That's super cool. We've seen like a trend where other Lightning wallets like Phoenix and Breeze have kind of moved into the Lightning service provider arena. Is there any plans for Alby to offer like liquidity services or anything like that for Lightning users?
No, not at this point. So we are really very much focusing on building a great wallet experience, and as a basically software provider, because I think there's a great initiative out there, which is called Lightning Service Providers, and with some regular specification meetings where professional providers come together, agree on a specification, and offer their services to wallets like Alby Hub. And we now have 5 of them integrated. I would love to integrate more if there are more out there. And they do a great job in providing a extremely reliable routing and payment experience. So that's why there is no need for us also to get into the space.
Okay. And with Nostr, do you think that Nostr is ready for like mainstream adoption, or do you think that it will always just kind of be like a niche social media that is only used by people that care about like freedom of speech and censorship resistance and things of that nature?
Well, I think like even this community is a great community. So it's not bad to be only, I think it's not bad to be only a niche social media platform, because what we see today, like it can be really a ground of many innovative development that comes out there when people work so closely together that have a very similar mindset. And so that's really not bad, I think. But yeah, in general, like with the first use case of social media or short form social media, I think not the Nostr community definitely picked one of the like hardest cracked nuts, um, um, because the competition out there, if you look at Facebook, Twitter, is just extremely hard. So they have an advantage of several years, completely different like amounts of investment have been allocated into these projects compared to Nostr. So that's why I expect Nostr will have a hard time to reach a similar level, but it definitely can already create a lot of value with like niche social media platforms. But what I actually find very interesting are use cases beyond just the social media one. So I think Nostr is extremely good from the technical perspective when it comes to the communication between apps. So whenever you want to make sure that this message comes from a certain app, you need to check, okay, is the signature correct, for example, and Nostr is extremely easy and simple, um, but a very effective way to do that. So and we together also with other Nostr apps actually leverage this ability and build something like Nostr Wallet Connect, which allows any Lightning wallet, be it custodial or non-custodial, to interact directly with an app that integrates the same like Nostr Wallet Connect. And this is great because an app does not need to be a wallet. and a wallet can fully concentrate to be a wallet, but at the same time has more activity, because users can connect their own wallet now to another app. But the user itself does not need to be on Nostr. It's just the apps that need to speak over the Nostr protocol on the sides, basically. This is how we leverage Nostr, just not for the social media use case, but as a way to build a communication layer between apps.
That's super interesting that you guys are using Nostr for that. Like we've seen like people like Jack, for instance, heavily invested in Nostr, and you know, like he's obviously built Twitter, so like he knows like how to build a successful social media platform, and he believes that Nostr is the future. Do you think like in the future people will just be like using decentralized social media like Nostr, but just on these smaller platforms and just using like a bunch of different ones?
I think we will definitely. I think we will see like smaller platforms growing in activity. So that, and Nostr is definitely one of them. But there's also, for example, Activity Pub and Mastodon, which is also growing. There are also companies, like bigger companies, integrating the Activity Pub protocol. I don't think it will be we will see such dominant positions as today when it comes to these big social media platforms.
Okay. And then right now, like in Bitcoin, there's a lot of talk of different covenant proposals. Are you favoring any proposal in particular?
No, not directly. I haven't looked into this too much. I've seen, like, I've been in Bitcoin since around like 2012 or so, and I know how long it takes to create soft forks. So relying on one software fork while, like, and the technology that comes out there while building a great Bitcoin product is very tricky. And that's why we are actually, that's also one reason why we are fully focusing on Lightning, because Lightning is the second layer technology that allows users to exit unilaterally, but at the same time also has large scale production use, right? So that's why, and that's why also I'm like really excited about the things around Lightning that will come up, that people propose to make it easier for every user to use Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. So such as Vol 12, for example. There has been discussions about revive discussion about channel factories combined with timeout trees. This is really interesting, from my point of view.
So I guess like my final question for you would be, how can people download the Alby wallet? How can they follow Alby on social media? Could you give those links? Like, what's the Alby website? All that kind of information for the audience.
Yeah, sure. So just go to getalby.com. There you find information about Alby Hub, about the Alby browser extension, and our mobile app. You find use cases, or as a creator, you can find ways how you can earn money by selling your content. As a developer, you can find also our APIs there that make it easier for you to integrate Bitcoin Lightning functionalities. And yeah, if you have any questions around that, just don't bother to reach out. My email address is moritz@getalby.com.
Awesome. Well, Moritz, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome interviewing you about Alby, and I use Alby, so it was very much a pleasure to talk to you today.
Likewise, thanks for the invitation, Ricardo.